שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. Join us. הנה מה טוב. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm Stephanie Bernstein, one of the rabbis here at Rodef Shalom. I am here with Cantor Rachel Rhodes, and we are so happy to be observing Shabbat with all of you today, and also to be celebrating the wonderful day, the wonderful morning on which Lyle is going to be called to the Torah for the first time. And we're so happy, Lyle, for you and for your family. And we're delighted to have people actually in the sanctuary. This is still relatively new for us. So I get to say something that I really haven't said for a long time, which is to invite you to turn off your cell phones. And whoever thought I would be happy to say that, but I'm delighted to ask you to please turn off your cell phones or anything else that might make noise. We do have people watching us on Zoom. We want to welcome all of you on our live streaming as well. And we also wanted to tell you that our live stream is actually archived. So if you are in the sanctuary and you want to, after the service, go back and watch the service, you can do that. So we do not permit the taking of photographs during the service. So that actually felt good to say too. I don't know when that will wear off. But for those of you who are following along at home, Cantor Rhodes will tell you about how you can access the prayer book.
Yes, so if you're here, this is our prayer book. You can find it if you're in the front row under the seat. And if you're behind the front row, you can find it just in the back of the seat in front of you. And if you're on Zoom or at home on our stream, if you're on Zoom, our wonderful Zoom host will put it in the chat for you so you can follow along. And if you're watching on our live stream, there's a link right above where you're watching that you can click on for a flip book. And all of the pages that we announce will be the pages that you can click in there to find where we are. Of course, we'll be leading prayers, singing together. Lyle's going to be leading prayers for us this morning. So we really hope that you'll join with us, of course, both here in the sanctuary and at home on Zoom. We'll do the blessing.
Yes, thank you very much, Cantor Rhodes. Yes, so I wanted to invite Jared and Stacy now to stand with Lyle to give him their own personal, private blessing. I know that for so many who are here and family watching on Zoom and live streaming, that your hearts are full of gratitude and blessing today, and all the more so for Stacy and Jared.
Mechilach to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha to a place you do not know. Lechilach on your journey I will bless you. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. We turn now to our worship service for this morning. We are on page 195. Invite everybody who feels comfortable doing so to rise for the Baruch Hu. Invite you, Lyle, to come up to the podium.
Please join me in the Yotzer or if you are comfortable with the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvorech choshech, oseh shalom uvoreh et hakol. Hameir la'aretz, beladarim alecha berachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh, bechol yom tamid maaseh v'reishit. Marabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam bechokma asita, ma'ala aretz kinyanecha. Tiparach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita, yifa'aru hasela. Or hadash al Sion tamir, v'nizkeh kulanu, Mechira le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer hameorot. Our service continues on page 198 with the first paragraph of Ahava Rabbah. Please join me. Ahava Rabbah ahavtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chem la vitera, Chamalta aleinu, Ba'avor avoteinu, Ve'imotenu, Shabbat hu vecha, Vatlamdem hu kechayim. Kain techonenu utlamdenu, Cham rachem aleinu, Vitain bilibenu lechavin, ulechaskil. Lishmora lilmod ulelamed, Lishmora v'lasotu lekayim, Et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha be'ahava. We continue in the English responsively on the next page. O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one, unifier of humanity.
We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully, we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel. And joyfully, we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose.
May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and the passion for righteousness stir in our hearts. Help us live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'armo Yisrael be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevor Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. Please join me as we chant Ve'ahavta together on page 201. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'chayu hadvarim ha'elech asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shimnamtam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha u'b'veitecha uvletecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam al mezuzot beitecha uvishareha. Leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai, v'datem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hoseiti ehem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lechayot lechem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Please join me in the English. Love Adonai your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words that I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside of your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your Ad. I am Adonai your God. Page 203. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect. The song of God's miracles, and earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
שיבחו גאולים לשמך שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל Kuma Bezrat Israel, Ufedechinu Mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Kohalenu Adonai Tzevaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai.
We continue in just a moment with tefillah, the prayer that connects us so strongly to our ancestors, to those who came before us, to all those who brought us to this day. We will continue on page 205, and if you are comfortable in standing and able to stand, I invite you to do so. Page 205. Please join me. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 206. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Gehula Livnei V'Nehem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, page 207. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. We continue on page 208 with Kedusha.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו, אדוני, אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
To all generations we will make known your greatness. To all eternity proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Please be seated. We continue on page 211. Those who keep Shabbat by calling it a delight will rejoice in your realm. The people that hallow Shabbat will delight in your goodness. For being pleased with the seventh day, you hallowed it as the most precious of days, drawing our attention to the work of creation. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Ritzei v'imnuchatenu. The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to the holiness in time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue on page 212. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves, and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otacha levadacha b'yirah na'avod. We praise you, Adonai, whom alone we serve in reverence. We continue on page 214 with a beautiful adaptation of the prayer Modim Anachnu Lach, which thanks God for the blessings, God's blessings that we have received that are so numerous it would be impossible to count them. And it is a responsive reading, so at the end of each section that I will read, the response, as you'll see, is Modim Anachnu Lach. We could not possibly express the depth of our gratitude. Page 214. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations, Modim Anachnu Lach. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons, Modim Anachnu Lach. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements, Modim Anachnu Lach. For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression, Modim Anachnu Lach. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared, Modim Anachnu Lach. For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and in freedom, Modim Anachnu Lach. For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose, Modim Anachnu Lach. Please join me. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulcha na'eh lehodot. We continue with our prayer for peace, Sim Shalom, page 216.
Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Chen v'chesed, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, v'rachamim. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We continue now with a few moments of our own silent prayer and meditation. Shalom imromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ve'imru amen. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's really wonderful to be together with all of you here in the sanctuary, with those of you on Zoom or on our streaming, to celebrate Lyle and all that he has worked to accomplish this weekend, the Shabbat of his Bar Mitzvah. Lyle, we know you've worked so hard to get here, right? Hasn't always been easy. You've been amazing. You already led us so beautifully today in your prayers, in the worship part of our service. It was great to see you take on that piece of leadership. And in a moment, we'll have reached the pinnacle part in our service, during which Lyle will officially become a Bar Mitzvah, a Jewish young adult, as he is called by his Hebrew name, to read from the Torah and to share with us his own thoughts about what his Torah portion means to him in this modern world. We're so thrilled all of you are here to witness that moment in Lyle's life. And we know that he couldn't have gotten here to this moment alone, of course, with his incredible parents, who are so supportive, with his amazing brothers, but also with his grandparents. And it's my honor to mention all of Lyle's grandparents by name, wishing you a mazel tov. Congratulations on this wonderful moment in your lives too. We know you've helped shape and guide Lyle to become the wonderful young man that he is today. So a mazel tov to Jackie Morse, to Nancy Graniter, to Paul Levine, Michael Schwartz, and Deborah Boudreau. Mazel tov, congratulations. I'd like to invite the grandparents to join us up on the bima as we pass the Torah down through the generations into Lyle's arms. Invite all of us to please rise. We turn to page 254, the Torah service. Please join us.
Lyle, as you receive this Torah, remember its teachings, its wisdom, and its history. Let it guide you this day and all days. As you embrace it, so may you embrace what it has meant for the Jewish people over the generations. Judaism is history and hope, learning and laughter. We pray that the story of the Jewish people continues brightly with you, and as you grow as a person and as a Jew. May you embrace the Torah your whole life.
We continue now with the words of Shema. Please remain standing. Beautiful. Please be seated. Grandparents, thank you for joining us.
The Torah portion for this Shabbat that I will be reading is called Korach. It comes from the book of Numbers, and my Hebrew reading begins with chapter 16, verse 23. In this portion, God stops the rebellion and kills the rebels by having the ground open and swallowing them.
For the first Aliyah this morning, for Lyle's reading, it's an honor to call up his grandparents, Jackie Morse and Paul Levine. Yamdu l'Aliyah Torah.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'charbonu mikol ha'amim v'natanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el ha'edah lemor he'alu misaviv lemishkan Korah Datan vaviram. Vaya kol Moshe vayelech el Datan vaviram. Vayelechu acharav zignei Yisrael. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe. Vayidaber Adonai el ha'edah lemor. Suru na me'al acholei ha'nashim harashaim ha'ele ve'al tig'u b'chol asher lachem. Ten kisafu b'chol hatotam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam haolam asher natanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natav b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shukach. Beautiful job, Jackie and Paul. For the second Aliyah, it's an honor to call up Nancy Granider and Michael Schwartz, Lyle's grandparents. Yamdu l'Aliyah Torah.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher barach banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vaye'alu me'al mishkan Korah, datan vaviram misaviv, v'datan vaviram yatzeu hitzavin. Theta acholechem unshehem uvnehem v'tavham. Vayomer Moshe bizot te'deun ki Adonai shalachani la'asot et kol hadvarim haile lo kilov miliviv im kemot kol ha'adam yemutun ele ukudat kol ha'adam yifaked lo Adonai shalachani.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yeshar koach. Beautiful job, Nancy and Michael. It's an honor for the third Aliyah to call up you, Lyle, for the first time as Bar Mitzvah. This is a big moment for you, your first time in this new status, and we're so thrilled to all be together to witness it. Yamod, 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 Habachor Habar Mitzvah, Yaakov Avraham ben Yard v'Basha le'Aliyah Torah Chazak.
Baruch et Adonai Hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vimberia ivra Adonai ufatata ha'adama et piha uvala'a otam vet kol asher lachem vayaredu chayim sheola viratem ki niatzu ha'anashim ha'eleh et Adonai vayehi ki haloto ledaber et kol hadvarim ha'eleh ukudat kol ha'adam asher tachtehem v'tiftach ha'aretz et piha v'tivla otam v'et batehem v'eit kol charchush asher le'korah v'eit kol charchush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yeshar koach, Lyle. Beautiful job chanting from the Torah. Fabulous. It's an honor to call up your brothers,
have a
Josh and
seat for
Cooper,
a sec.
to help us with the dressing of the Torah. I invite everyone to please rise and join us together in these words on page 252.
Vezot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael. Al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai.
We continue with Eitz Chaim as we return the Torah to the Ark.
So, I was just going to introduce you, but if you want to launch right in, you can. I know you've done such a great job, Lyle, and I know you're looking forward to sharing your words of Torah with us, and also to having this be over in a good way and a big sigh of relief. But anyway, we'd love to hear you share your words of Torah with us.
Thank you all for coming here today. I would like to talk to you all about what my Torah portion means to me. My Torah portion talks about the people rebelled against God because they didn't believe in what God was doing. Once God found out about this, God killed them and their families for trying to go against him and Moses. I think that this was a bad thing, mainly because this punishment was cruel and out of proportion, and very unnecessary for their families who were killed and the people who tried to rebel. This was terrible because the families who didn't do anything, they were just bystanders to this whole thing, and it was very unnecessary for them to be killed. Then God killed these people who tried to rebel. I think this was a bad thing because God killed them for rebelling when he shouldn't have killed them, even though they did rebel. God should have just kicked them out or some other punishment. A recent situation that reminds me of this is a girl who was trying out for a school's cheerleading team. When she didn't get in, she wrote F school, F this, F everything on social media. The word spread and the coach disqualified her because the coach felt that the cheerleaders needed to be kind and shouldn't say curse words. This was a problem because she didn't do anything wrong to the school, and they punished her because she stood up to the coach and the team. This was a bad thing because they were punishing her for speaking up and she couldn't be a part of the team. This relates to my Torah portion because this is close to the same thing that happened with God in the rebellion. This case was then taken to the Supreme Court for violation of free speech. I hope that she wins the case. This is important because it shows that you can speak up because it is your right, even against someone who you don't think is right and has more power. An example of collective punishment is if any of us lose video games for doing something bad, we all lose them, and it is unfair. This is unfair because one of us did the wrong thing, and only they should lose them, because we didn't do anything wrong. And only they did, so they should lose them. How my parents could administer these consequences fairly would be by making it so that we can play video games, but they can only play if they earn it. That would be a fair way to do things. And this was the way God should have done to the rebels. This could work in the story if God banished them, but allowed them by come back if they should their worth to him by doing something. I would like to thank everyone for coming. Thanks to the TRS clergy for helping me with my speech and my Torah portion. I especially want to thank my mom for helping me get through this process one step at a time. I would also like to thank my grandma Jackie for helping me practice every week and eat dinner with her. I would also like to thank my other grandma for helping me when I was younger. The last person I would like to thank is my dad because he helped me with some trouble I was having while learning the Torah portion. I would also like to thank my mom for helping everything come together. Thank you all for coming and have a wonderful day. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Lyle. Wow, fantastic. Lyle, I'm going to ask you to stand there just for a couple of minutes while I add to your beautiful words of Torah. And big sigh of relief. You're done? Yeah, and a big smile. You did such an incredible job of leading us in worship, of chanting Torah, and also of teaching us from a really, really difficult Torah portion, right? This is not one that when students get this for their Bar Mitzvah, they say, oh, I'm so glad that I got this Torah portion, right? Because it's such a difficult one. The wives and the children, even the little children, the Torah goes out of its way to say the tiniest of children are to die just because they're the children and close relatives of the rebels, not just the rebels. And when we first started working together on your speech and studying it, I don't know if you recall what you said to me. You said, this is a terrible story. What am I supposed to learn from this? And I love that because, you know what? It is a terrible story, and you were really acknowledging that. And you did sit with this really difficult story, and you learned something, and you taught us something important from this story about fairness, whether it's on a global scale or at home with who gets privileges taken away from them, right? And I think you made a powerful argument. We'll see what your parents say. I don't know. And you taught us something important from a really difficult story. So I wanted to thank you for that. And I wanted to add just a couple of words to your beautiful Torah. So the question I have, and you really had to struggle with, is what do we do when we find a terrible story in the Torah or something in life? Our hearts ache, and I know that yours did, for all the people that were punished in this story. You really felt deeply the injustice of that. So we can't pretend that these stories are not there in the Torah or in life, and we can't, run away from them. Sometimes we have to do what a Bible scholar says. When we run across these kinds of texts, we have to wrestle with the text for a blessing. And you certainly did that. We would all, I think, be happier to read and study texts that are quote unquote easier. How about the creation of the world? That's a great one. Poetic. I don't think there's any violence there that I can think of. But, in the struggling with these kinds of texts, as you did, Lyle, I think that there is something holy too, and that we can derive a blessing as you did from them. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to say to you, I was thinking about the story of Jacob wrestling with the angel. You might remember way back in Genesis. And Jacob's on his way to meet with his brother Esau. I don't think it was an issue with playing, video games, but they did have a big dispute between the two of them. And Jacob is really terrified that Esau is going to do something to harm him. And he goes to sleep for the night. And as he's sleeping, he wrestles, physically, with this divine being, which our tradition understands is actually God in some way. And Jacob really hangs in there for the night, and the divine being cannot overcome Jacob. And Jacob refuses to let this divine being go unless the divine being gives him a blessing. And the divine being does that and also changes Jacob's name to Yisrael, Israel. And that is the name of our people, and the literal translation is one who struggles with God. And Jacob actually gave a name to this place where this occurred. He called it Peniel, the face of God. So what he meant was he had seen God face to face and struggled with God, and he emerged changed from that, but he became, I think, a stronger and better people. So Lyle, we as Jews are God wrestlers. We're not expected to accept things blindly. We are expected to think. We are expected to ask why, even when there may not be answers, let alone easy answers. We are expected not to look away from things that are painful and difficult. And you might know that in the Torah, it tells us we're supposed to be a kingdom of priests and a holy people. And I think that there is holiness in this kind of struggle, in trying to figure out what we're supposed to learn, not only from the things in life that are easy and sweet, but from the things in life that really are difficult. And Lyle, you really rose to the occasion, both in your preparations for today with the Hebrew and your prayers, and really wrestling with this very, very tough Torah portion. You are a blessing to your family, to our TRS community, and to the Jewish people. And just as you've blessed us today with the way you led us in worship and taught us Torah, Cantor Rhodes and I would like to give you our blessing, and we would like to invite you and your mom and dad, along with Joshi and Cooper, to stand in front of the ark so that we can give you our blessing, and we invite everyone to rise. Lyle, may God always bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's light shine on you and always be gracious to you. Lyle, even as you wrestle occasionally with difficult things in life, may you always experience a sense of God's nearness and God's peace. Amen.
Taking your place in an enduring line. This is the day that you stood up to say our tradition is mine. You have now held the Torah. It's been passed on to you. It's our law and our story, and each telling is new. It is said we stood at Sinai, and today you know you're there. You're the promise of a people, a blessing and a prayer.
We ask that you remain standing as we continue with our concluding prayers, beginning with Aleinu.
Page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת יוסו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ובודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our hearts are filled with so many emotions today, with love, with gratitude, and also with memory. We think of all those who have made us the people that we are today, who are no longer living, our family members, our friends, and in particular today, we think of Lyle's grandfather, Louis James L.J. Morse, after whom you were named, right, Lyle? And we honor his memory and the memory of all of our loved ones as we turn to page 294 and join in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Please rise, page 294. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shamei rabbah be'alma divra chirhute v'yamlich malhute b'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agola u'vizman kori v'imru. Amen. Yehe shemei rabba mevarach le'olam olamei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam levracha. May the memories of all of our loved ones always be for blessing. Amen. Please be seated.
So it's an honor this morning to present some gifts to you, Lyle, that we've already given you the beautiful bag, but I'd like to tell everybody what is inside, and hopefully you will use and appreciate these gifts for many years to come. The first is a certificate that Rabbi Bernstein and a board member and myself have signed. that speaks of this day, and we hope you hang it proudly in your home to remember this moment. And you'll also receive a few gift certificates. One is from the North American Federation of Temple Youth for travel in Israel in your high school years. And one is a gift certificate from our youth committee to attend a youth event through Tristy. And you've also received a travel mug from our youth group as well. And finally, a Kiddush cup from the clergy. We hope that you use this Kiddush cup for many events to come, for Shabbat, for holidays, and that it always reminds you of the sweetness of this moment. So we'll conclude our service this morning on page 322 with a closing song and benediction. Ein Keloheinu, I hope you'll join us. Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Adonai oz la'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May God give strength to us all and bless us all with peace. Amen and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.